Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. It's the latest episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. I'm Michael McCall, and Zach is not with us this week. He's away on his holly bags. So, we've got a great replacement, all the way back from down under. G'day, Cobber. It's Harjeet Johal.
Good day, mate. How you going?
I'm doing good. Thank you for giving up your sleep. I know you've struggled with the jet lag.
Yeah, it's not been great. I think today's Wednesday, so that's good.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't know what day of the week it is most weeks anyway. So, I mean, you've got an excuse. I've just got old age. But how does it feel to be back in Canada, coming back to all the smoke, the hazy days? Are you missing Australia already?
It's good to be back home to sleep in my own bed and smell that fresh, clean air outside. I finally got some groceries because I was out of biscuits. Yeah, it's just nice to be back home and not having to do like a million things and running around from here to there and practices and training and press conferences and shuttle buses. And it's just nice to be situated and have like a nice, quiet routine starting up again.
Well, we'll talk about the Women's World Cup in this. We'll talk women's soccer. I've got an interview coming up with Ivan Mejia from Vancouver FC, and we'll talk a little bit Whitecaps at the end of the show as well. Before we get into any of that, I want to find out some more about Har's trip. Let's see if she can stay awake during the whole recording. I'm not sure that she can. We'd have had this out a couple of days ago, but she just keeps falling asleep for... How long did you sleep when you landed? You landed at 9:45?
Yeah, and then I was just going to sleep until like midday, and I slept till 4, so that wasn't great.
Wow. I mean, your body obviously needed it.
I had 2 naps yesterday, and then this morning I was awake at 5 for no reason.
Oh,
and then I went back to bed till like 11, so...
Well, I like my afternoon naps. I've had that. I've got a coffee to keep me awake and no chocolate digestives, but I do have a chocolate hobnob.
Yeah, you're a hobnob, all right.
Yes.
I haven't had any naps today, so that's been pretty good.
Wow, I've had more naps than you. So,
yeah.
I mean, we chatted when you were on the last time from down in Australia.
I was also very tired on that occasion.
You were, because it was, 3 a.m.?
Yeah.
3 a.m. Eternal, great song by Scottish band KLF. Check that out.
Sure.
I'd asked if you'd had any Tim Tams, if you'd thrown any shrimps on the bar, but you hadn't. Have you had a Tim Tam while you were down there?
No, they have them at all the supermarkets and grocery stores, but we have them here, so I'm not.
Yeah, they are very good, and I mean they're not chocolate digestive level.
They had the white Twix chocolate bar, which I quite enjoyed.
Oh, I think we had that here as a special edition. With the Tim Tams, the Tim Tam slam is where you use it as a straw and you suck your drink through it.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, it's a big thing there. I do like Tim Tams.
Custard creams. Now, if they had custard creams, I would have been very...
I'm surprised it didn't, because...
They have Jemmy Dodgers and all these.
Yeah, because there's obviously a big expat population there from the UK, and like we were talking a little bit before recording about like TV shows, because regular listeners will know how much I love my
Yeah.
Australian and New Zealand TV shows. And I'm glad to say that you were enjoying the TV down there.
I was. I enjoyed the crude humor, the off-color jokes. You just don't get that in Canada because we're
Yeah,
very polite.
that's what surprises me, because it's like we're all Commonwealth countries, but
Yeah,
Australia and New Zealand's very much got that UK style humour, lots of
definitely.
swearing, very inappropriate jokes. Whereas
Yeah.
here, it's more
No.
Americanized and folk are a lot more sensitive and delicate.
Yeah, you wouldn't get those shows here. I think people would get accustomed to it. I think they
Yeah.
would be very successful, but I don't know why they're not airing.
Well, I mean, the amount of shows that we've done over the years, at the end of it, Zach said to me, oh, folks going to complain about that, and no one ever does.
Because they're used to you.
Yeah.
They know the show.
Yeah, they've got used to the shit that we bring. But it's like a couple of good comedy shows. The Cheap Seats. Have you been paying attention? I always recommend folk check that out. And you
Yeah.
got into a drama down there, which I haven't watched yet, Bay of Fires. I'd read the blurb and it hadn't sounded very like gripping.
I only
But
watched like an episode and a half, so I'm
oh,
not too familiar because I couldn't figure out what day it was on.
right. Because I was going to say, would you recommend it? Because I might
Yeah,
like
I would. They
check that
have
on my
like the
download site.
iPlayer. There's like an iPlayer you have to figure it out. I didn't have time for that nonsense.
What about finding a coffee after 3 o'clock? Did you manage to get one?
Don't get me started on that. No. And if you do get a coffee or a latte, it's this really small cup of tea. It's smaller than the size of my phone. It's not even that tall. It's ridiculous.
I've got a
Yeah,
nice big
that's
coffee.
that's a proper size, the one that you have right there.
Yeah, this is what you want at 9 o'clock at night when you want to have a decent sleep.
I just like that during the day to get me started, my London funk.
Yeah. What were your highlights then? Like aside from the football, what were your highlights? Because you got to do a bit of sightseeing and you were travelling. I was going to say, you weren't really travelling all over, but you went to Perth, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to
Yeah.
Perth for
So
Canada's
you're like the other side of the country, and you were in Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, Gold Coast.
Yeah.
What was your favourite?
I pretty much liked all the places that I went. Maybe Melbourne, I could have done without 12 days there when it was cold and rainy and windy and frost advisory. So maybe Melbourne, not as much. But yeah, everyone was really friendly. It was a beautiful country. There's lots of great scenery, lots of welcoming people, lots to do, easy to get around, lots of transit. So I would say the whole trip, all the places I went to were just fantastic.
And have you come back swearing like a trooper?
Yes, but that's not new. That's
No,
not
that's true.
a new thing for me.
Awesome. Once we get together for a coffee, that's going to be a lot of fun then.
Yeah, I have
So-
to remember that we don't use those words here. People
Well, I
will
do.
Yeah, you do.
Some of them may feature in our songs that we're bringing this episode. We'll see how they go. Let's get talking about the football then. Now, the 2015 World Cup here,
Yeah.
was that your first World Cup? Women's World
Yeah.
Cup, yeah.
Yeah.
So you were at France in 2019, and now you've been to this one. So it's you've been to 3 in a row. How did this one compare to the other two? Not in terms of football, because we know that was good, and we'll come to that in a sec, but just the organisation of it and just the logistics of it. Because they had the Fan Fest, which seems to have been a massive success.
Yeah, the Fan Fest were a huge success. Even when Australia wasn't playing games, they were still very full and very crowded. I believe they set records for attendance and people were going to them. They had to turn fans away at some of the sites. So they were a massive hit. They were quite popular. Even just, watching a game like Denmark and China, I was at Fan Fest for that. That was full. That had a lot of different people. So it was not just Australians and people from New Zealand that were watching. They were people, expats and other people from different citizens from different countries that were here that were watching football too. So they were a success. In terms of fans attending the games, they set records for that. The crowds were fantastic. A lot of sold out matches, a lot of coverage on television, in the papers, radio. So it was massive in terms of engagement and media and fan awareness. So I think that was huge. I can remember in France, just days before the tournament started, you wouldn't even know there was a World Cup. So I think it was organized a lot better. people were friendly. They seemed happy that you were there, and they wanted to help you out and assist you as best they could. The shuttle buses were great. Getting to the stadium, the communication, the signs, even having food for the media, which is a big thing. So that was great. I just thought it was, it was a great tournament. It was well run, and it was fun to be a part of it.
Oh, fantastic! Because I know from watching the shows that I watched that everyone, all the news channels and all the comedy shows were really behind the Matildas, and there'd been questions about whether New Zealand would get the crowds, but they seemed to get the crowds out for their games as well, which was great to see, especially with them going out so early. Obviously, Australia going so far in the tournament really helped, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that was a huge surprise. I don't think we thought they would do as well as they did. We thought maybe they would get through the knockout round.
Yeah, I mean, I told you from stuff I'd watched that they felt really confident.
Canada did not top the group, as we saw.
Yeah, I mean, in the build-up to it, and obviously teams are always going to be confident, but all the Matildas, all the videos I watched from them, they were like, oh no, we've got a good team. We're really coming strong. And I think if we talk about the football side now, Zach and me have talked about this in the show, but from me that hasn't watched loads of women's football over the years, aside from obviously the UBC and League One games that I commentate on and just Canada, the big tournaments, it felt noticeably better quality football, but also the gap between these top teams and the up-and-coming teams has reduced. In Canada's case, scarily so.
Yeah, Canada's getting passed by. Teams aren't catching up to Canada. They're passing by them, and they're getting more momentum. And they have leagues where their players can go and play at home. We don't have that yet in Canada. So the world's definitely catching up and moving past Canada. We saw a lot of teams that they were a surprise, yes, but they show that they can compete and they can get results on the big stage against some of these tier one teams that didn't have great tournaments like Germany and Canada, Brazil. So it's really great for women's football to have these teams competing. I know there were some question marks as they went to 32 teams. Would we see lopsided scores? Would we see teams getting demolished? And, we saw a few scores that were a little bit lopsided, but nothing like a 15-0 or 10-0 or nothing like that.
But then you've got the winners got hammered in their first game, and then they regrouped and they come back and they win it as well. But you've had like the rise of Colombia, who were an absolute joy to watch. Did you get to any of the Colombian games? Because the atmosphere in the stadium looked amazing.
It did. Unfortunately, I was not at any Colombian games. I was at the Jamaica and Brazil game, and that was an interesting one to watch because Brazil needed to score. They needed to win to advance, and they did not.
Yes, that was a very interesting last few minutes and stoppage time of that one as well, as they were kind of throwing everything at them. And
I think to start, 4 out of the 6 that I started with went to 0-0 after regulations.
Oh.
A lot of 0-0 games.
The Har curse.
Basically.
And Morocco as well, like doing it for African football and the Arabic world as well.
They had big ratings at home for their games too. They had a lot of viewers.
Because I know over in the UK, like in England, the Lionesses really captured everyone's imagination there. Even though I felt they didn't play good football for most of the tournament. I think they were really scrappy and really lucky to even get to the final.
You look at their side of the bracket, they had a much easier path to the final. You look at what Sweden had to go through, and unfortunately they came up short against Spain, but that New Zealand side of the bracket was a lot tougher than I think what England had to do. And so going up against Spain, they really hadn't played a lot of tough teams to get there. They played Australia, but by then, Australia was just knackered. Australia was just done for by then.
I mean, I will say, people know I'm not a big fan of the English national teams, but they did give me some of my favourite moments of the tournament. Lauren James's stamp, I had a lot of joy out of that.
Yeah. And Mary Earps.
I was going to say Mary Earps in the final as well after the penalty save. There's a
think Alicia,
T-shirt you can buy now. There's a site called The Art of Football, and they've
yeah,
brought a T-shirt out of that with her screaming with "F off."
I think Alicia Chapman had the best
Oh yes,
cursory soundbite of the tournament.
yes. That's definitely the soundbite of the tournament winner from Alicia. Fantastic stuff. Right, let's get to the final. The atmosphere seemed great, and obviously there's a lot of expats there. It definitely felt there was a lot more folk there cheering on England than Spain.
Oh yeah, definitely. There was tons of English fans. The Lionesses fans were everywhere. They went over to Manly Beach during the day leading up to the game. You could walk around Sydney, and they were everywhere. I would say it went England fans, USA fans, and then Spain fans for the final. There were some Spanish fans, but not a lot. I don't know if they thought their team would get that far. And then you have to realize the flights and the tickets, but the England fan, the Lionesses fans, they always come through very strong, and they had some interesting chants they had during the pregame. They didn't really use those after the game, but the stadium, yeah, it was a lot of Lionesses fans. There were pockets of Spanish fans, but majority was English supporters, and you could really hear them during the anthem and during the start of the game. So the crowd and the atmosphere was electric.
Another thing that England gave me as one of my favourite things from the tournament was the tears at the end of the game. I mean, it's always nice to see England players crying. I mean, they should bring out an IPA, Lionesses Tears. I'd buy a case of it.
Yeah, you could start brewery. You could.
I might even just do that. But I think Spain were worthy winners on the day. They
Definitely
played the nicer football, and again, England had struggled to get through. That the shootout that they had against Nigeria looked so nervous for their first couple of shooters that if it hadn't been that, I'm not sure England would have even got through that game. And then Australia self-destructed defensively and basically handed the match to England. But Spain were so worthy of that, and the young keeper Katakol, what a revelation she was from the knockout stage almost. She was fantastic. She was one of my favourite players in it.
Yeah, she was tremendous, but I think Mary Earps had the better game against England. That should have been 3 or 4-0 to Spain, because they created so many chances, and then there was the penalty for Jenny Hermoso, which was saved by Earps, and Spain just kept coming. I know Serena switched to 4 at the back at the half, and that really didn't slow down Spain. So England really didn't have a lot of answers. They had 2 chances. Lauren Hamp, where they could have scored, they could have equalized, but it was Spain's day. You just really didn't feel like England was going to get a tying goal.
Yeah, and Zach and me were talking about this in the last show, so I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. One of the things that when I'd watched women's football, especially at international level in the past, was the goalkeeper didn't seem that strong like throughout the world. But this tournament, the goalkeepers across the board were fantastic. It seems to have been an area of the game that's really, really improved.
Yeah, the keepers, the player from the keepers have been fantastic. You thought maybe, they might just put the tallest player in net or the most keeper that moves the best, but now we're having goalkeepers that are all shapes and sizes, and they're able to get across, and their footwork's fantastic, and they're able to get to rebounds and knock balls over the bar and just play fantastic. So it's not just a handful of goalkeepers. It's every team pretty much has a goalkeeper that's fantastic. So it's really made a difference. You're not seeing some of those blowouts and some of those goal fests that we've seen in the past. So I think the keeper position was fantastic. I know in the start of the tournament, we had a lot of low-scoring games to start, and so I think that was the key. I think Sweden's goalie was the best goalie of the tournament. She really put on a show against the Americans, and I would have given her goalkeeper of the tournament. Obviously, I did not have a vote.
You should. It should always be your vote.
It should, yeah.
It should, yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to bring us this episode's wavelength way earlier than I usually do, because we're talking about the Women's World Cup, and I've got another song about women's football that I'm going to bring you, because the Lionesses didn't win the World Cup, but
Oh, of course.
did you know, Har, that a Scottish woman has won the World Cup, Women's World Cup?
Who?
Although technically it was before it was really branded the Women's World Cup. It was 1984. But it was still basically the World Cup.
Yeah, I wasn't
name-
alive then, man. I don't know.
Oh, were you not?
No.
Oh, jeez. Showing my age again. Anyway, her name is Rose Riley, and people here, most folk probably won't know anything about her. She was a talented female footballer in Scotland, and she started in the 1960s, and she couldn't play in a girls' team because there wasn't girls' teams around. So she played in a boys' team, and she was told to get her hair cut, keep it short, call herself Ross instead of Rose. And then they started having women's teams. And then in the 70s, she was at the top of her game and could play professionally. But in Scotland, there were no professional women's teams. There was no professional opportunities. So her and a couple of other players went overseas to play, and they criticised the Scottish Football Association for not offering women the opportunity to play professionally. So what the SFA did in result was ban the three women for life. I know, it's when you talk about that now, you're like, wow, considering the leaps and bounds that the game's got across the world, including
Sounds like Spain's
Scotland.
FA.
Yeah, I mean, obviously things were very different in the early 70s, but you look back at that now, and she left at the age of 17 to go and play in France, and she played for number of club teams in Italy and France. And then, because she was playing in Italy, even though she had no family connection, the women's game was different. So she was picked to represent Italy as the national team. And she won the Serie A Golden Boot twice in 1978 and 1981. She scored 43 and 45 goals over those seasons. And then she played for Italy and won what was then the precursor to the Women's World Cup in 1984 with Italy.
Ooh, you should have her on the show.
She's 68 now, and I would love to actually chat with her. And like the reason I'm talking about that is for a number of reasons, because obviously it's a great story. She retired aged 40, and she won 8 Serie A titles, a French title, and 4 Italian cups. One year, she actually played for teams in Italy and France at the same time, and flew between the countries once to play 2 games over a weekend. Because the women's game was, I guess, just totally unregulated back then. So she's held up as an icon in Scotland and in the UK. They did a play about her, which it was getting played in Fife in September last year, but I had left 2 weeks before it was on, so I didn't get to see it. But it's actually going to get turned into a Hollywood film, the story of her life.
Oh, that's cool.
So for the play, there's a Scottish singer-songwriter called Linny Carson. She's from Greenock. So she wrote a title song for the play in 2021. And that is my long preamble to introduce this episode's wavelength. This is Linny Carson and the song She Rose.
Up again. crystallized in another land. When the SFA dished out that ban, she rose. She's rose. Went from Rose to Ross with John Roy. Would have played for Celtic if she was a boy. Forza Rosa to Italy, your story goes. Learning the lingo, you played your way to a shiro. You blazed the trail right through them all. 'Cause you were born to kick that leather ball. You rose. You rose. You rose. You rose as high as you could go.
Adesso sulla palla il nostro capitano e centravanti Bette Mignotto. Tenta di calciare ma prende la traversa. La palla cade ai piedi di Lonzo e di gol! È un tiro sensazionale, segnato da Riley. Italia 1, Germania 0.
Lily Carson there, She Rose, her song, all about Scottish footballing legend Rose Riley. If you don't know her story, go check it on Wikipedia. There's lots of things written about it. As I say, there's going to be a film as well. She is an absolute inspiration to the women's game, and it's just so sad how things turned out in Scotland for her, but it didn't turn out bad for her in the end because she lifted a World Cup. The only Scottish player to lift a World Cup on the male or the female side. So it's another 4 years here now to the next World Cup, and it's not been set yet who's going to host it, but I know America and Mexico are in the mix.
Yeah, there's 4 bids that are currently being thought of. USA, Mexico, as you mentioned, and then I believe there's a joint bid between Germany, the Netherlands, and Belgium, and another bid, South Africa, and Brazil is the 4th bid. So those are the bids. I think it's in the spring, maybe in May next year, so we'll know then who's going to host the World Cup. The US and Mexico bid is currently the favorite, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'd like it not to be them, because I think for the growth of the game, it's better if it maybe goes to Brazil, South Africa, something like that, especially South Africa, to help grow the game there.
It's too cold. I don't want to go there in the winter time.
All right, I was going to say, what would be your preference? Somewhere hot.
Not going there in the winter time again.
I because of the World Cup in Qatar and watching it in the winter, and I really enjoyed it, it felt weird watching a World Cup again in the summer. Although for you, it was the winter.
It was very weird. Why are kids in school? It's July. Oh, it's backwards down here. Okay.
Yeah. But you also got a chance to go to the FIFA Congress thing that was on.
Yeah, I went to the FIFA convention.
That was it.
Friday. Just one day. One day was enough. I did not go on Saturday.
But
I got to speak to Bev Pressman. I ran into Coach Bev, so I had a nice chit chat with
I know,
her.
because you were like, I don't usually get to speak to her, and I keep telling you, come along to League One games, and she's there watching. You'll get to chat to her all the time.
On the record, though?
Yeah, I've spoken to her. Had her on the show.
Record.
On the record, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, we'll see.
And I don't get any calls from Canada Soccer.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
But mate, what were they talking about at the convention? Was it just about the growth of the women's game?
Yeah, they were just giving themselves a pat on the back. I went for the morning one on Friday, and I did not know Gianni Infantino was going to speak. That was quite a surprise. And
he took credit for everything.
His 4 daughters opening the doors. I almost fell off my chair. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah. It always amuses me that guys, if they've got a daughter, their view on women's sport and everything completely changes.
Well, he has 4 of them, so
Yeah.
he's got a lot of views. That was not spoken very well. So he gave himself a pat on the back for going to 32 teams. I was there to see kind of the coaches and see what Emma Hayes and Jill Ellis had to say. Carm spoke. Karina was on a panel, and Karina also hosted a panel, so I spoke to her at some
That was a
point.
nice picture you had with her.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I really like Karina. A lot of time for her. She's such a fantastic
She's a
advocate
great
for the
person,
game. And
yeah.
Obviously, there's been a lot of controversy at this World Cup for a number of things. We'll talk about Canada in a sec, but the Nigerian women were having issues. Jamaican women were having issues off the pitch financially. Everyone knows about the whole Spanish Federation.
They do now.
Yeah, I mean, well, I say everybody knows. I didn't until you started tweeting stuff after the final, and I was like, what? And then I went back and read about stuff that had been going on, and it's like, because when I saw your tweet that you'd asked one of the players, should the coach resign, I was like, oh man, why would you ask something like that after the happiest day of their life? And then I went back and read it and about why, and it's like, oh, well, that does make sense.
For the record, I did not come up with that question, and I did not translate it to Spanish. Someone else did.
Okay.
I just said, hey, you don't want to ask it, you don't want to ask it, I'll ask it. I don't mind asking you. But I didn't
Right.
come up with a question.
Oh, so folk were afraid to ask. It didn't.
Not me.
It didn't seem the right time, and her answer did seem pissed off. But then when you read about everything that's happened, as you said, if you're not going to ask and bring it up at that point, when are you going to bring it up? It seems
He was
so.
kind of asked in the lead up to the game. He was asked a couple of questions about the turmoil off the pitch. And his first answer, he said, "Next question, please." And then there was some other questions where he wouldn't answer the question that was asked. And I think they only took about 2 or 3 questions in English in the press conference leading up to the game. The rest was from the Spanish media, and they didn't really touch on any of the difficult topics. As Spain progressed to the semifinals and then the finals, you knew that them being in the spotlight and with all the media there was no way to avoid these questions, and they were going to come up to the players and the coach, and it did in the lead up to the game, and it certainly did after the game, and in the days after, since we've seen what's come out as well. So the heat's still on the whole federation. Yeah,
I mean, with them winning it now, though, and I'm genuinely asking this, I don't know what you're going to say. I think I know what you'll say, but like, did they win it despite what Velda's done, or has he kind of been proved a little right in his tactics and everything because they've now won the World Cup?
I think it's a bit of a combination. Like, I guess you have to give him some credit, and him and his staff. Obviously, the players are the ones that play and they put in the performance. And they have a lot of talent. But, he does the lineups and tactics.
Yeah,
so.
but I mean, that's the thing, because if a team plays bad, the coach gets it in the neck. But if a team plays good, the players get the credit and the coach doesn't get the credit.
Exactly.
But some of the other stuff I read, like the girls had to keep their doors open till midnight or whatever, I mean, that's all weird because you don't know who's in that hotel. Never mind the Federation folk. You could have an absolute sex offender in the hotel that can just get into women's rooms because the doors aren't locked. So stuff like that is just baffling.
Yeah, the whole federation's not looking good, and they're having a meeting on Friday. And so we'll see if the president, if he resigns, if the coach goes. I'm not sure because it depends on who has the support. The Spanish government can't really step in because it's separate from the federation. So we'll see.
Plus,
what they
FIFA
do.
don't like government stepping in.
I'm pretty sure Vilda's father works in the Spanish FA, so there's connections there.
Right.
It's all intertangled and mingled. So
Well,
I can't see how he stays on because they don't want him to be the coach.
Yeah.
There's all this heat and pressure on them, all of them. And they have qualifiers for the Olympics starting in September. They play against Sweden in the Nations League. So
and all eyes on them now.
Happen soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, talking of Olympic qualifiers, it's like, what now for Canada? And the answer is Jamaica. Off their own accord, home and away, September 22nd in Jamaica. Toronto 4 days later. Winner takes the final spot for CONCACAF in next year's Olympics in Paris. And like on paper, before this tournament, you thought, Canada should get through this quite comfortably. I looked at the last two meetings. February 2020, Canada beat Jamaica 9-0. July last year, 3-0, Canada beat Jamaica. But now, Jamaica look a whole different animal, although maybe not one that is scoring tons of goals. That said, Canada is also not looking like a team that is scoring lots of goals. It's just a couple of nil-nils written all over this.
Jamaica, do you know how many goals Jamaica allowed at the World Cup?
No. 1? Ooh.
It set them packing, so.
I mean, obviously it goes without saying, if Canada don't get through this, it's a huge disaster and it sets the programme back so much. Are they in danger, though, of not getting through this? Does the fact it's two legs help them?
I don't know. I don't know if it helps them, but yeah, they're certainly under pressure. They're certainly not going to be easy. You're not going to have a cakewalk against Jamaica, the way that they're playing and the way that they have momentum. Also, you look at that Toronto game, it's sold out. Is it going to be Canadian supporters or how many Jamaican?
Well, that's true, because when the men's teams played there's been a big Jamaican turnout.
I think we're going to have to see if Canada can go back to their ways where they have a really strong defense and solid goalkeeping, and then they get those 1 or 2 goals they need to progress, because we didn't see that against Ireland or Australia. Ireland had a really great start to the game against Canada. They scored an own goal, which helped Canada, but Canada didn't start well in their last 2 games. Australia just took it to them. So I think it'll be low-scoring games for sure. So it'll come down to who can get those 1 or 2 goals in that series. But Canada's got to play a lot better, and they've got to come into camp focused and ready to go to the Olympics. And they've got to put what happened at the World Cup behind them. They can't be fixated on any of that. And when I talked to Bev, I asked her, is Christine going to play in these qualifiers? Is Sophie Schmidt, is she going to be able to come back, or is she going to stay retired? So Bev hasn't had a chance to talk to Christine or Sophie yet. I believe she flew home to Canada on Sunday. So are those 2 players going to be a part of it? And what's that kind of going to look like for Canada as they look to get to the Olympics?
Well, I noticed Sinclair played for Portland and started the game at the weekend, but she came off midway through the first half, which I didn't check to see if it was an injury or if it was just they were resting her or...
I have no idea. I don't know what day that was or what time it was.
But, I mean, the pressure's on Canada. And 2 years ago, if you said, they might struggle to get through this and be at the Olympics, you'd think it was crazy talk. And that just shows you how much the rest of the world's kind of caught up to us now.
Yeah, even not only Canada, but even the Americans. And they've qualified, so we'll see what Canada can do. We did see in the statement that came out that Canada will be playing in the windows in the fall, so that was a nice surprise. So that was a great news.
Well, you say it was a nice surprise, but it's been arranged for a while, apparently. And I mean,
you want that news out there?
Yeah, let's get into that statement. The Canadian Soccer Players Association, which we should stress is one of 3 unions that cover Canadian players. 4, really, if you include the MLSPA as well, because they cover Canadians in MLS. You've got the professional footballers one that covers the CPL players. The men have their own union. And then the women have the Canadian Soccer Players Association.
There's also the Philadelphia Union, too.
Hey! And it's like Union City Blues, favourite song of mine from Blondie. And this statement that came out today,
the bag of words, a lot of words.
It was really frustrating because it's like a month has passed, or more than a month, since the previous statement where the women were saying, we had to choose between World Cup compensation or playing games in the windows. We're not going to be having games in these windows and stuff like that. Now they've backtracked and said, our words were taken wrongly, which is bullshit because there's only one way you could have taken their original statement. And the media pounced on that. And the media love to play on this outrage against the CSA, rightly, because Canada Soccer have treated the players terribly. But you cannot issue a statement like that and then take a month to correct it when it's big, big things that you are correcting. And I don't think the women come across well in this.
I don't know who wrote the statement or who advised
yeah.
them or why you waited a month or how you mix up those two things, but it certainly doesn't help.
It does feel like... Now, I'm not saying that this is what happened, I will stress. This is my supposition as somebody from a union background. I was a union rep for 15 years. My last year in Scotland before moving over, I worked for that union. So I know how unions work. We had a good union. I did a lot of union work. There's ways to negotiate, and as soon as you go public, you have to be factually accurate. Or you can hope that the media will pick up what you say because that's what people will remember. And then it's like when newspapers publish an article and then they correct it a couple of days later, folk don't remember the correction, they just remember the initial thing. So people are going to remember this initial statement and not the statement they made today. So I don't know if this was deliberate or not. Very interesting to me, though, that Rick Westhead hasn't touched this statement today, hasn't tweeted anything about it, hasn't written an article about it. Because
maybe he's on holiday.
Maybe, but it goes against the narrative that he's trying to paint. It's just my thought on it. But I think all the players, male, female, club, international, they need to get together under the one umbrella. There's too many statements. Yeah.
There's too many back and forths.
They need to have single representation, I feel. Or even if you don't want to do that, you have club and country. So you've got two representation. But the men and women have to work together, and the domestic players want to work together.
It looks like there's less working together that's going on.
Yeah. Everyone's got their own self-interest, and obviously you've still got this horrible CSB deal that's hanging around, and until that maybe gets sorted out, I don't see how anything's going to change. But the picture isn't as bleak as the women painted it out to be, which then makes you wonder, is it as bleak as the men painted it out to be with their statement? And then just to finish this part, talking about the men, are they going to be looking for a new head coach? Because at the time of recording this, John Herdman is the front runner for the TFC.
No, that's a bunch of crap.
It's going to be Herdman with Robbo as his assistant.
No, it's not going to be either of them. You really think he's going to leave to go coach that train wreck in Ontario? Come on, people.
I think we've chatted about this and we both feel there's maybe a little bit of leverage there on John's part.
It's his form. Get the leverage, get a better contract, get better resources, get another Phil Neville on stuff. Come on.
Like, he wants more from the CSA for the team, and he needs to get more. He needs more resources. He needs better support. So let's plant
this story. Let's put this out there.
Yeah. Because it's like, if you want to keep me, then I need this, or I'm going to go to a club team.
Yeah.
Now, the danger with that is they call his bluff and go, fine, on you go. And then, will he be happy at TFC? Will he be in charge at TFC till 2026?
No.
Is he going to give away the chance to lead a country to a home World Cup? It's a strange story, and it does feel that Herdman's representatives, because it's interesting, the Athletics article said it's not Herdman that approached TFC, it was his representatives.
Yeah.
Which you would also imagine they've also got in touch with the media as well to plant these stories out there.
Of course, the Toronto media ran with it.
Yeah, it's baffling to me. I mean, my personal choice for TFC, I want them to do badly because it's hilarious and they're our rivals. But if you're going to appoint someone to give them time to build something, you put Bobby Smirniotis in charge from Forge. He's done it with Sigma. He's done it with Forge. He can grow young players, incorporate the talent, the big name players as well. He's the only man that should be getting considered from those list of candidates that we've seen.
Yeah, I can't see. He's going to uproot his family in White Rock or wherever and move all the way to Toronto. That team doesn't even have the roster and the pieces. They need upheaval and a lot of turnaround. So
yeah, I don't see it, but yeah. Anyway, Lots of drama as always in the Canadian national team. We're going to turn our attention to the club scene next. Vancouver FC, the CPL. I sat down with a chat with VFC player, former TSS Rover, Ivan Mejia. We'll be back with that after this.
Hi, I'm Mike Dean. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
There's a demon in my soul, I keep him in a hole, but when I feed him he grows tears leaping out my throat. Then people that I know run fleeing for the door. There's a demon in my soul and he's eating me whole. There's a demon in my soul, I keep him in a hole, but when I feed him he grows tears leaping out my throat. Then people that I know run fleeing for the door. There's a demon in my soul and he's evil at the core. Need an exorcism set to withdraw, but the demon owns me, cause possession's 9/10 of the law. I feel it crawling through my bones, on its way to my mind. It never leaves, can he see, though I pray for a sign. Please God, lead the way cause I'm blind. Help me embrace the divine, give me the strength to leave Satan behind. I'm kneeling at the altar of an ancient shrine, screaming take my life, it's just a waste of time. The people I've shook down, the gutters I've slept in, alienated my muckers and my next of kin. Usually into the bucket and a naked gin, spend the expense on the bourbon when our check comes in. Punted my soul for a buzz that packs a punch tons. I practice done club, I'm smashed and drunk. Born evil, just honest when I'm steaming. Maybe it's me that haunts the demon. There's a demon in my soul, I keep him in a hole, but when I feed him he grows tears leaping out my throat. Then people that I know run fleeing for the door. There's a demon in my soul and he's eating me whole. There's a demon in my soul, I keep him in a hole, but when I feed him he grows tears leaping out my throat. Then people that I know run fleeing for the door. There's a demon in my soul and he's evil at the core.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's our Artist of the Month here at AFTN for the month of August, Scottish rapper Mog from Glasgow. That's a song taken from his upcoming 10th album called X, and that's a song featuring Becca Starr. That was Demon. And some football demons were sent packing this past weekend out in Langley as Vancouver FC got their first ever Derby Day victory in the Canadian Premier League, seeing off the visiting Pacific FC from the island. A 3-2 win in a very entertaining match at Willoughby. Vancouver FC took the lead in the 11th minute, were pegged back by two second-half goals from Pacific in an 8-minute spell midway through the half, but two goals from super sub Gabby Bitar gave Vancouver FC 3 big points, kept their, I think you've got to say, faint playoff hopes still alive, bringing Vancouver FC to within 3 points of Valour at the bottom of the CPL standings, ending the weekend still 12 points off the playoff places with just 8 games left. But the feeling around the camp is they can do a late run. I don't know if they can win out, but it feels that they maybe need to win out if they are going to try and clinch that first ever playoff berth. Still feel it's a little bit pie in the sky. It's really just a case now, I think, of finishing the season strong, getting the fans excited going into year 2, and for some of the players, just showing exactly what they can do and that they do deserve to be back with this team next season. Amidst the highs of Saturday, one of the disappointing aspects, though, was the omission from the game day squad of Ivan Mejia. You know what big fans we are of Ivan here at AFTN, everything that he's achieved with TSS Rovers this season, and so glad that the 22-year-old Colombian-Canadian got signed up in the summer transfer window by Vancouver FC. Just one fleeting substitute appearance for Ivan so far. Hopefully a few more to come over these 8 remaining games. Got a chance though to catch up with Ivan this week out at training in Langley, just to chat about his journey to the CPL, his time with Vancouver FC so far, and what the future may hold in store. So go stick the kettle on, grab your biscuit of choice, sit back and enjoy our feature interview this episode with Vancouver FC's Ivan Mejia. first of all, Ivan, nice to have you on the podcast. Even though I've known you now for a few years, I think this is the first time that we've actually chatted on the podcast. So,
Yeah.
how are you enjoying life in the CPL, Vancouver FC?
It's been like a roller coaster to be honest. Like obviously super excited for what's happening right now, and hopefully it takes me to better things for now on. So
Well, I mean, you've worked really hard to get to where you are, and I know it's been a journey, ups, downs, mostly ups, and I know this deal was in the works for a bit. They had you in at training, they'd been looking at you, weren't sure if it was going to go ahead or not. At one point, it felt, but how did it all play out in the end? When did you first know that they were interested in you, and what was the messaging like in the build-up to you actually signing the deal?
yeah, so they were interested in me. I mean, since the beginning, they kind of thought that I wasn't ready for it, and I honestly agree with them because I wasn't, and it kind of changed my mind and how I think about like soccer in general. And I mean, I changed the way I train, changed the way I like eat and stuff like that. Like I got fitter, like got ready, and they kind of called me back into it. And I mean, it was a long process. Like overall, it took super long, but at the end of the day, like it got it done. So that's what's important, right?
Yeah, and this is your first pro deal, which I'm imagining is like a boyhood dream. At what age did you
Yeah.
know that you wanted to be a professional footballer?
Yeah, so my family has been like a super like soccer family for a long time, right? Like my dad played professional for about 2 years, was a pretty short career for him, but it kind of that's what got me into it, right? Like his passion for the game, like the way he used to see the game and stuff. But I think I was about like when I got into the Whitecaps program, when I kind of saw what I could do. Obviously, it was a bit of like a difficult situation for me back there because I was new to Canada. I didn't have like, like a visa to travel into the States since I'm Colombian, right? Like it's a bit different. So I couldn't travel with the team. So I mean, I always knew that I could have done better, but obviously the chances weren't there. But yeah, I think about 15 years old, that's when I was like, okay, like I can do something with this, right?
And to sign your first pro deal with your local club as well, because I mean, obviously CPL teams have been watching you all season and how well that you've done, and you could have ended up anywhere in the country, but to sign locally, to be at a club that family, friends, like Vanessa, I know it was at
Yeah.
your debut. I mean, how special was that to be with your local club for that first deal?
It was crazy. It was a crazy feeling. I don't think my mom have ever watched one of my games. So when I came on the field and I saw her like kind of turn around and saw her right behind me, I was like, wow, this is a great feeling. So I got like goosebumps when I came on, and then I mean, signing with the hometown club, like that's a big deal because I have so many friends and family around here, and then supporters as well. Like I think at that game I saw lots of like TSS supporters, and then they came out and started like singing the songs they used to sing me at back at Swanger. So it kind of felt like home, right? Like it's nothing crazy, like it's not too much difference in between.
Yeah, that's one thing about TSS is like it's always a rover. Whenever you've played for them, they'll follow your career, so you're always going to have that, which is great to see. And making that debut at home, I think, was also special. Obviously, it's just the first appearance so far, but when you got the nod from Afshin that you're going on and you're going to make your debut, what was going through your head? Were you nervous? Did you have butterflies, or could you just not wait to get on?
No, I was super nervous. I was really nervous. I mean, it was my first professional game, right? So it's obviously a special feeling. I mean, the situation was a bit tough because we needed a win so bad. So I came on like trying to do my best to help the team, like, achieve that. Obviously, we didn't, but I mean, like the feeling of, constantly having like, looking forward to it, like looking forward towards the win, kind of got me like super, super excited for sure.
And I mean, you certainly did not look out of place. It was an excellent performance that you had in the time on the pitch. Did you notice it was a higher level than what you've been playing at in League One, or is there not that big a jump really?
It's totally a bit different. I mean, For me, I kind of like, I mean, I guess I needed that few minutes to kind of see what the level is like. I mean, obviously playing pretty simple helped me a little bit, kind of just have a feeling. Hopefully I get a chance soon, and then obviously a bit easier for me to kind of just do what I'm best at, right? But yeah, like the level is obviously like a lot higher. It's not too big of a gap, but there's a like players are more smart, and then they don't have, there's not much running. It's more like how intelligent you are to read the game, if that makes sense.
Oh no, totally. And well, we'll come back a little bit at the end to Vancouver FC and what lies in store for the season and stuff. But I want to kind of do a little bit of a chat just about your journey as well. So I mean, you mentioned you're from Colombia. I think was it 14 you were when your family came over?
Yeah, I came here when I was, yeah, 14.
So I mean, what prompted them to come over? Was it just they wanted a better life, and why Canada?
Yeah, so we had a bit of a tough situation back home, with family and stuff. Like, there was a lot of like gang stuff involved into
Mm.
it, and like my family obviously thought that coming out, like leaving the country, will be best for me, because it was a bit of a tough situation that I was at. And yeah, like my aunt was already here when we arrived to Canada,
Ah.
so it kind of helped us to see, okay, like family, like they're in a place that they know is safe and is like enjoyable to be at. So we kind of just follow it, like give it a try, and then we liked it, so we just stayed here.
And I know you were playing with Deportivo Cali, which is obviously a very well known club in Colombia, and Colombia is just such a passionate footballing country. What was it like playing football as a youth there?
It's totally different. It's a different level. I mean, soccer there is like the main sport. Like you don't see guys like playing basketball or like hockey and all that. Not saying that there's something wrong with that, but it's just
Yeah.
soccer. Like they're so interesting to it. Like everywhere you go, you should see kids playing around with the football, right? Like which is crazy. The level is a lot higher there. Like everybody, you can find a million Ivans over there. Even better, like which is that crazy, right? Like yeah, I mean, it's just the opportunities, right? Like it's super tough to make it over there. So coming out here, I didn't think I was gonna do as good as I did, but obviously it worked out. So
Yeah, I think whenever you see like South American players come over, no matter what age, whether it's youth or whatever, there does seem to be that more technical ability. It seems to be focused on a much earlier age than I think it is over here.
yeah, for sure, for sure. That's something you learn when you are like 11, 12 year olds. Like that's if you want to be in a high like academy level, like you have to have that from like super young age.
Yeah, because like being from Scotland, that's something that we've lacked, and it's like we don't focus on that until folk are too old, and all they want to do is be at the big clubs, and they don't kind of get that grounding. But then you came over here, so you had that technical ability. It would
Yeah.
help you stand out. How did the whole Whitecaps thing come about? Because I know you were with Mountain United. So did they see you playing there, and when did they show an interest in you?
So when I first started playing here, when I came to Canada, I actually took a break for 1 year. Like
Right.
obviously I didn't have any friends, like I didn't have like I couldn't speak the language, so I couldn't like, see like oh like there's a game here or there. Like I didn't know what was going on. So I kinda was a bit shy as well. Like, it's a bit tough to come in from a different country as well.
Yeah.
And then at school, like I was just obviously I had Colombian friends because that's the only friends I was trying to communicate with, and we will go to the gym, and then we'll just do like games at the gym, and then like obviously people will like super impressed, like, oh, like this guy is really good, and they come up to me and talk to me, but I couldn't understand anything. Somehow one guy actually invited me out to one of his training sessions, and this was for like a gold team. It's called South Burnaby, which
Oh
is
yeah.
a yeah, it's like a gold team. And I was there for about like 3, 4 months, and I was just playing games, and I was scoring goals, like I was doing really well. But obviously, because I was used to the level back home, like it was super easy for me. Well, not super easy, but like,
Yeah.
I was just comfortable, right? Like I knew what I was doing. And yeah, I pretty much went through every level. And then 3, 4 months later, like there was a BDMS coach, Burnaby District coach, for Metro. He was watching one of our games, and then he enjoyed what he saw, and then he started asking me if I can play for him as a permit player. Eventually moved out there, and the same thing happened with Mountain. Like they come out, they watch the games, and then they looked at me, and then so on. And the same thing happened with Whitecaps again. So it was a bit of a situation. I actually made it through all the levels in just 1 year, so it was pretty interesting.
Oh, fantastic! Because I
Yeah.
remember you signing with the. Was it just 1 year you had with the Whitecaps?
No, I was a month for 3 months, and I was like a training player for Whitecaps. They didn't have a spot for me ready, and then I think it was about 2016, I will say. That's when they gave me a full position in the club, right? And yeah, I was there for about, well, without counting the training year, I was there for 3 years
3 years.
fully.
Oh,
Like,
wow!
yeah, yeah.
When you came here, did you speak English or did you have to learn
No,
English over here?
I didn't had nothing. Like, I had nothing on me.
Oh,
I had
wow!
learned it all in at school. Yeah,
Well, that's amazing. I can't imagine how difficult that must be, especially
yeah,
like coming over as a 14-year-old as well to
yeah.
try and do that.
It's crazy. It's great. I would just go home and be on like my phone talking to my friends back home, like telling them that I'm like no enjoying it here. Obviously, the life is different, but like
Yeah.
you have to have friends and kind of socialize. But yeah, that was a bit
Yeah.
tough.
Let's move on a little bit then into with TSS because
Yep.
you came to play for TSS. I think last year was the first year for League One because
Yep.
I'd seen you playing around in VMSL, so I knew of you. I remembered you from the Whitecaps times. This year with TSS, I mean, it's been a season of highs and lows. For you personally, it was a fantastic season. 6 goals, 7 assists. For me, and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you, because I've said this to other people, I believe you are the League One Player of the Year, taking nothing away
Thank
from
you.
Michael Henman. But
Oh yeah.
because the league don't count assists, and I'm the only one that's registered assists.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
anyone fully appreciated what you did in that league this year. I mean, did
Yeah.
it feel that you were doing something special?
I mean, yeah, like coming back from like last season, I knew there was some improvement that I needed to make, not just like as a player, but obviously as a person as well. And I think it really helped me see, like, getting called up from Vancouver. Like, they were interested in me, but obviously they saw that I wasn't ready enough. That kind of like pushed me a little bit, and it kind of like got me more serious into it. And that's when I fully like let myself like just feel free. And I think that's what helped me like do as well as I did for this season. But yeah,
Yeah. If we look at the other big high, obviously that Valor game will live in the memories of everyone that was there for a long,
yeah,
long time. What was that like? Do you still get like goosebumps thinking back to that night?
yeah. I mean, so nice. I just go on my phone and I don't know where I was just like, oh, let's look back into that night, right? And it was a crazy feeling. Like I think before the game, everybody was just like so nervous. I mean, in a good way because obviously playing a professional team, like it means a lot, and then we don't want to obviously embarrass ourselves, kind of like that's what we were thinking. Like obviously we gotta go in and give it all, and everybody on that team gave it all, and that's what helped us, like do as good as we did, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched those goals back countless times as well,
Yeah.
and like your goal, I was having a discussion a few weeks ago with someone about this. Is that exactly what you meant to do, or did you slightly mishit it? Because I think it was what you meant to do, but the guy was like, "No, no, I think he mishit it."
So yeah, the ground was a bit wet. I would say I meant to. Obviously, I didn't mean to put it at that place, but I
Yeah.
did shoot it towards like hard on to the corner, and obviously worked out. Like I had this conversation with a friend of my friends, and they think there was a deflection on it. There was no deflection on it.
No.
Just to make it clear, the guy didn't touch the ball. So yeah,
Fantastic. And I mean, it was such a crucial goal coming when it did. At what stage of that game did you feel, oh, we can do this?
I think when we scored the first goal, it was such a good feeling, and then we kind of like wow guys, like we got this, like everybody just got together, and then if you see the way we were playing, like we were playing just so comfortable, like we knew what we were doing, like it wasn't nothing new to us. Obviously it's a different feeling from obviously playing League One to playing a professional team. Like there's a huge step, and if you're not ready for it, like it's obviously gonna go wrong. But yeah, like she's having the support out there, I think that really helped us a lot. Like, I think it would have been a very difficult situation if we went there to Valor instead. I don't think it would have been the same. But
Yeah.
yeah, the support like just felt crazy. So when we scored the first goal, and then we just saw everybody screaming, like going crazy, we just used all that energy, and then we just got back into it, right?
And like that game and then the Pacific game, by the end of that, had that given you a big boost to your own personal confidence of, look, I can go and compete with these guys. I can be at this level.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you do it once and then you can be at that level and you can do it again, right? So yeah, for sure.
I I won't dwell on this too much because it still hurts. But that game in Victoria, I still can't believe that happened.
Yeah, I mean, we were I mean, it's a tough situation. We obviously know how Pacific plays and how good they are. We obviously believe we could have won that game if it wasn't for that penalty. Because obviously it wasn't a penalty, and then even now, like the player and the referee now agrees with it. So it's kind of like, oh, like come on, like we could have had a chance, right, to play
Ah,
against obviously Whitecaps. That would have been an interesting game as well.
I know, and it's like, who knows? You could maybe,
Exactly.
yeah. I mean, Victoria was not a good place. Because if we go to the end of the season, the Highlanders game,
Yeah.
that's another thing. I just can't believe that that happened, and we won't dwell
Oh,
too much on that. But I mean, that still gives me nightmares thinking about it. Just from commentating point of view, I don't know what was it like as a player on the pitch.
I mean, we at that Victoria game, we kind of just knew we just needed to win that game, so we can be back into the Canadian Championship, right? And having that to lose like last minute, like we gave two goals away in like about 30 seconds, kind of just hurts a lot. Yeah, so big.
But those are the things, I guess. They always say it makes you as a player, it makes you as a person. I'd rather not have that to help make me as a
Yeah,
person and player, but I mean, it is what it is. But now you're with Vancouver FC, so obviously you're signed to the end of the season, and you don't have to tell me the personal discussions that you've had, but I would imagine they've gone, we just want to see what you can do at this level for the rest of the year. What do you feel you need to work on still in your game to stick at this level now?
I think I just need to used to get sorry, I need to get used to the pace of the game.
Mm.
Just having the opportunity that they give me when they give me minutes, like kind of just come into the game, like prepare, like and that's kind of what I did for the first game. Obviously, that was my debut, and then kind of just get that over with, and then now we just move on to being myself, being the person I am, and then hopefully help the team, you know, uh, do better, right?
And it was a big win the weekend, first win in a derby against Pacific, which, considering what they did to TSS, must have felt sweet. But it's going to be tough for the team to make the playoffs. But the belief seems to be there amongst the squad that you can still do this.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, we know the coach like his heart is into it, and then he puts all the players into it as well. So we're gonna give it all for the club, right?
What is Afshin like as a manager? Because from the minute I first spoke to him last year when he was announced, the passion and the enthusiasm just shines through. As a player, having him behind you and encouraging you, what's it been like for you?
I've always said this to everyone who asks me this type of questions. I look up to him, not just as a coach, but as a person as well. Like everything he's bringing to the club, like it's just such a like important guy into it. And like obviously, I wouldn't rather have like obviously this is my first pro debut, and he gave me a chance. He saw what I could do, so it's a special feeling for me to have him as my coach, and then for him to give me the chance, right?
Fantastic. That's pretty much it. I'll get you to do a bumper for our show. Before I get you to say this, I saw your video when you say you had arrived and you were introducing yourself. So I've been butchering your name for the last 2 years on commentary, haven't I? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean everyone has though. Like this is a few issues that came when I first came to Canada. Obviously I couldn't speak English, so people just changed my name, and I couldn't like, oh, you say it this way instead, right? So I just stayed with it, and I'm just like, you know what, like just leave it, like just leave it.
How do you say your name?
Ivan Mejia.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man.
No
And
worries.
good luck for the rest of the season. I don't know how much I'll get out to see you because I'm commentating up at UBC, but I'll definitely be watching and wishing you all the very best. You so deserve it. And yeah, I hope the rest of the year goes fantastic for you.
Thank you so much.
I wanna fly like an eagle. I wanna sing like Sinatra. I got a date with destruction. I wanna love like a murder.
Fantastic to catch up with Even there and wish him all the very best, as we said at the end there, for the remainder of this season. Hopefully he can show Afshin Goatby and Vancouver FC what he can mean to this team, get that extension into a contract for 2024 and maybe be joined by some of his TSS Rovers teammates in the process as well. But wish Even all the best. Look forward to seeing him on the pitch in Vancouver FC colours soon. It is going to be a tall order though for Vancouver FC to make the playoffs this year. As I mentioned, still sitting 8th in the standings, 12 points off the playoff spots. That loss for Pacific though has cost them a little bit, cost them first place in the CPL. Cavalry have now leapfrogged into top spot. They were my tips, remember, a few weeks back to win the regular season. They now lead the way on 33 points, Pacific on 32, Atletica Ottawa in a fantastic run of form just now, up to 3rd on 31, Forge on 31, Halifax on 29. They fill the top 5 places just now. They are the playoff contenders. York, 3 points further back on 26, Valor at 20, Vancouver FC at 17, look a little bit cut adrift. Going to be an exciting run into the end of the season. We'll have you covered all the way here on the AFTN Soccer Show. But we're going to turn our attention from the CPL to MLS next, as we'll get some of Har's thoughts on how the Whitecaps have been doing in their time away. Back on the pitch this past weekend as they hosted San Jose Earthquakes. Didn't go the way anyone had hoped for, and we'll be back chatting about that after this.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ivan Mejia, and you're listening to the AFTN show.
Your man rappeth, yes, my craft's mammoth, madly blasting Black Sabbath while the unwashed clappeth. Bams, damn parrots, copycat artists, better follow that rabbit down the hole, it catch carrots. And I'm blatant with a Satan, gonna waiting, have no patience, nae shaking, nae hesitating, nae playing, nae faking the presentation, nae escaping. When I'm painting the picture, I'm vividly giving you pain. But the game's not the same as it was in the days when we all were just ready to be wains. It's a pity, a shame. Got me listing these names that I'm giving these flames. Got me pissing on graves, cause I'm living off hate, try to kill my old mates. You're eating off rat traps, fucking feeding off my scraps. Whack cause I took a cat nap, suddenly I'm nuts after I can't smash all your fan dams. Don't make me laugh, ha 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 ha. When you then I say don't, pure nothing, I'm something, you're slumming, I'm wanting. What the fuck we on in the same boat? Give me your coat, better kiss your folks. I thought you get lost in addiction for goat. I thought you get poked with a shiv in the throat and then thrown in a hole. I'm a different foe. I'm a different foe, perform my ritual slow. My vengeance biblical soul, run for the hills if you know. They picked the shit in the show, gave them a minute to go. They won, they listen and know. I'm a different foe, I'm a different foe, perform my ritual slow. My vengeance biblical soul, run for the hills if you know. They picked the shit in the show, gave them a minute to go. They won, they listen and know. I'm a different foe.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, and kicking off this part, it's another song from our Artist of the Month for August here at AFTN from Glasgow, Scotland. It's the rapper Mog with a song from his new album, his 10th album, X, coming out later this month. That was Different Foe. And the last month, while you've been away, the Whitecaps have been playing different foes. You've missed 2 fantastic games against Mexican opposition.
That's it.
It was great. I really enjoyed the League's Cup. I hope it's expanded and there's more games next year, because they were back on the pitch this weekend playing a more familiar foe.
Yeah.
Back to the bread and butter of MLS. Now, when I last spoke to you, you hadn't even had a chance to watch the game yet. I take it you still haven't.
No, and I won't.
Well, we won't talk too much about the game.
I saw they lost 1-0 and Vanny's
Yes.
still getting yellow cards, so that's all I need to know.
That was pretty much it. I mean, we'll have a shortish Whitecaps part to round off the show. I'd hope to have an interview. It hasn't quite come off yet, so that should hopefully be in the
I
next
wonder
episode.
that could be. I wonder who that is.
It could be a surprise, or folk can probably guess who it might be with. But yeah, we'll hopefully have that in the next episode. So it was a 1-0 loss to San Jose. The Whitecaps dominated, but
They didn't score.
They couldn't take their chances. Your boy, Brian White, if I hear about his XG anymore,
Yeah.
I'm going to explode. I don't care how much his XG is. If he's not putting the ball in the back of the fucking net, his XG can be through the roof.
Yeah, it's just a fancy stat. I mean, it doesn't get you goals.
San Jose's XG for the game was 0.1.
They won.
And they won 1-0 and got 3 points.
XG
So it's
doesn't
all
mean
bollocks.
anything.
No.
So if the coach says that, we got the chances, we're creating stuff, we got the XG, I think it's something along those lines. That's great, but you still lost. So if you go into the next game, you do that.
Yeah.
So we're seeing we're going to lose 1-0 again.
I mean, I can't remember who it was now. One of the MLS West coaches earlier in the year had said, we won the game on XG. And it's like, well, you lost the game on the pitch and you lost 3 points. So
XG. It's not a real stat.
no, it doesn't
Stat
really
is
matter.
goals scored and goals allowed.
I mean, San Jose, it was a smash and grab. The Whitecaps should have won that. And I won't talk too much about it.
You think the long layoff between MLS games hurt them?
I don't know, because San Jose had a longer layoff. They were laid off for 4 days longer than the Whitecaps. But, I mean, there were some positives. They were creating the chances. Cordova is still looking sharp. White was getting in the positions but didn't score stuff. Larea looked really sharp but didn't have more than a half in him. But you can see he's not on the same page yet as his teammates, which is understandable.
It's early, yeah.
There was a few good balls that he played or cut back or crossed in.
What about Gold? Gold's the best player on the team.
Yeah, but Gold's, he's got a tight hamstring, so he only came on for the last half hour and he didn't look the Ryan Gold that he did before the break.
Uh-oh.
That was concerning.
I'm sure the road trip and being on all those planes will help.
Yes, because let's get into that, because that was a costly 3 points to drop at home with 7 away games now coming up. They're sitting 8th in the West. They're 1 point above the playoff line and 10th place.
They have games in hand, I think.
Yeah. See, what they've got in their favour is they've got a 5-point lead over the 11th place team, Kansas City, and they've got 2 games in hand on them. So I think really you're kind of looking that there's 4 teams battling for 3 spots right now at the lower end of the West. So as bad as that loss was on Sunday, because I was joking to Zach, oh, you're going to miss our end of season special now because he's away. It's not quite as drastic as that, because you look at the games that's coming up. This next 7 games are at Portland, Chicago, NYC, Toronto, Houston, RSL, Colorado. So definitely winnable games in there, bookended by Portland and Colorado.
Yeah.
TFC as well are just a clusterfuck just now. So unless they can somehow turn things around, that's 3 very winnable games, 9 points. We'll come to Portland in a sec. They've 3 more games to come at home. And something that always pisses me off, not just with the Whitecaps, East Fife have done this, other teams have followed. They talk about, oh, it's a fortress. And then they go and they lose the game. But I don't know how you can quite call BC Place a fortress this year, because they've played 14 games there. They've only won half of them. They've dropped 17 points at home. They've taken 60% of the points available. And that's a team that also just has 1 win and 6 points on the road all season. So that doesn't feel good enough unless they can now somehow win some of these games on the road. And I talked there that there's maybe 3 winnable games there in Portland, Toronto and Colorado for sure. But 9 points doesn't feel that that's going to be enough from that stretch.
No, I think you have to get more points and maybe get some draws in there. I think 2 losses would be good and maybe 3 wins and we'll see what happens.
I mean, Houston's on fire just now and they absolutely destroyed Portland at the weekend. And now the Whitecaps go to Portland on Saturday. I haven't been down to Portland for what feels like so many years now. And I can't go on this because I'm commentating on Friday and Sunday afternoon. So I can't make that game in between and get back in time for
I
it.
think Chicago will be a special game because obviously Vanny lived there. It's his favorite city.
Yeah.
He loves there. They're going to spend an extra day there. And you go to New York, and that's always a tough place to play because of the dimensions of the stadium. And I think if they can get a win in Portland and then go into that Chicago-New York run and have that momentum, I think that would be very key. But we don't really know what kind of Portland team we're going to see on Saturday.
Well, that's the thing, because obviously Savarese went, which it's a shock and it's not a shock. They have been playing terrible.
Yeah.
He's taken them to 2 MLS Cups, though, and he is a really good coach. But that performance on Saturday, you wouldn't have seen it, but the highlights that I watched, they were awful. And they've been awful in a few games. To make matters worse, their striker, Jaroslav Nizgoda, is out now for about 9 months with an ACL tear that he injured in that Houston game, so they're missing him as well. It's definitely not the Timbers of old, and it feels weird going down there and thinking, I think the Whitecaps are favourites for this, but I think they have to be.
I agree. Yeah, they have to be. They've done well there recently as well, too, so they can win in Portland. Is there any concern with the wildfire smoke down in Oregon?
I don't think so, and I hope not, because I'm going down for a couple of weeks next month as well. So there is a couple of wildfires in the interior, but it's down the I-5 quite a bit, so I don't think it'll get into Portland. So I think that should be okay.
No
they did
more
have
hurricane.
horrible air quality, though, on Saturday. When I was checking all the air quality here and there, theirs was not good, neither was Seattle's. I want to, just to round this show off, just ask you about a couple of things that happened when you're away, Whitecaps-wise.
They traded Julian Gressel.
Yeah, for weeks you asked about Julian's contract. As soon as you
Yes,
went,
I did.
they got rid of him.
Less than a week after I went.
Who are you going to pester now about their contract? I'm imagining it'll be Vanny.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, were you surprised that Julian went? I think we spoke...
I was not surprised that he went. I was surprised that he was traded. I didn't think he was going to come back. I was surprised that they moved so quickly to move him because I had asked, I think there was a presser where I had asked Axel if they were going to trade him and then risk not losing him at the end of the season. And it sounded like he did not give that a thought, or that wasn't on his mind at the time. So I guess it changed. I understand Julian and his wife kind of sat down and talked about the future and what they wanted to stay in Vancouver. I think this was after the LA Galaxy home game. And so that's maybe why it kind of progressed as quickly as it did. So it was good for the Whitecaps to be able to get something. And ultimately it led to getting Richie and Sam aboard.
Yeah.
So a few dominoes fell. So it seemed to work out in the long run. And we'll see where Julian ends up, where he signs long term. I don't think it will be Columbus.
What's your thoughts on Sam and Richie coming? Because we haven't heard from you on that yet. Did it surprise you to get both of them? Are you happy that we got both of them?
It surprised me. It's always nice to have Sam back. He was here before, so we kind of know him as media, so it's good to see kind of full circle his return. I don't know that I'm happy or sad, or I'm not really bothered either way. So we'll see how they fit in and what where they play on the pitch and how their fitness is and what they can contribute down the stretch, how they do on this 7-game road trip. And I'm curious to see how this works for Luis Martins and Javane Brown and what their playing time looks like. And are they going to go into a reserve role, or what happens to players? Because you can't outplay everyone at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, Vanny has kind of said with the games coming thick and fast, he feels he's going to have to use the whole squad. But there's a difference between using the squad and keeping that squad happy, which is now what he has to balance. Just to round this off then, how do you see the season going? When we spoke the last time, I said I could see them making a push for top 4. It would be tough, but I could see them getting there. You completely dismissed that. You got a bit of flack from some folk for that as well. But they're now sitting 8th with 11 games to go. I mean, they still could get to the top 4 because they're 5 points off 4th with 2 games in hand. But they'd have to go on a hell of a run.
I will double and triple down my statement from earlier, where I will reiterate there is no chance they are getting fourth spot. Zero chance. There's chances between 1% and 100%. Theirs is below. It's 0%. 0% chance they're getting fourth spot. Fourth place teams, if you want to get up to fourth spot, you've got to win 3 in a row. You've got to win 4 in a row. You cannot go win, draw, loss, win, draw, tie, win, win, win. You have to keep winning. So like 4 wins. Then I might be convinced. Losing to San Jose does not convince me. I think they'll be in a big fight to get 6th, 7th, or 8th spot. But 4th spot,
pinned on the bulletin
chance.
board.
No chance for 4th spot. Put that in the locker room. Har says no chance.
Do you see them being in the playoffs?
Yes.
Do you see them being top 7 and avoiding the wild card game?
That's to be determined.
Do you think my $10, because you won't probably know about this, I put $10 on the Whitecaps to win the MLS Cup at 81-1. I stand to make $810. That's Caitlin's Christmas.
Yeah, there'll be no Christmas in the McCall household this year.
It's going to be like a Christmas carol.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that's no.
Well, Miami's the 3rd favourites to win it, and they're bottom of the East, languishing way out of the playoff places.
Yeah, but Messi hasn't done anything in MLS yet, has he? No. Nothing.
Oh, did you see somebody had a sign at the... Well, you won't have seen this. Someone had a sign at the Whitecaps game, and it said MLS stats, Messi,
I seen it, yeah.
GA0, Tiber, 18. I thought it was goals against whilst on the pitch. I didn't think it was goals and assists.
No, I don't know. But I'm surprised that it didn't get confiscated by security.
No, it's a positive thing. It's just saying that Tibert's better than Messi. The
Yeah,
Canadian Messi.
I don't know.
That's maybe pushing it. Anyway, enough. I'll let you get to bed. I think it's me that's having the tiredness rambles now. Thank you for... yeah, and I've got a coffee. I am actually quite awake now, which is not good at 9:52 at night. Thank you for joining us. I will hopefully see you soon. I don't know exactly when, but where can folk find your stuff online?
On the internet.
You always say that. I'll plug you then. Hard Journalist on Twitter. EqualizerSoccer.com.
I have a new friend.
Oh, do you know that they're riddled with chlamydia?
I do know that. And which team went and cuddled them before the World Cup?
Probably England.
Canada.
Oh, so are you saying... No, I won't go there.
No, I'm not saying that. I do not want to get cancelled.
And for anybody, obviously, for anybody listening to the podcast, that's everyone. No one's watching this. Just Google what animals are riddled with chlamydia if you don't know. And I'm not responsible for your search engine history.
Can I give a shout out before I go?
Of course you can.
I'd like to give out a shout out to Jake Nowinski for his tremendous play this year. How fantastic it's been. I've not been able to watch last month as I've been away, but he was on the podcast that St. Louis has, and it was really good, and I quite enjoyed it. So shout out to Jake Nowinski, the best fullback in the West.
You know he scored an own goal and gave away 2 penalties on Saturday.
No, he didn't.
No, indeed. Someone gave away a penalty and it was number 22, and I thought it was Nowinski because it was his number here, and then I was like, oh no, that's not Jake.
You watch your mouth, mister.
Anyway, thank you for joining us, Har. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back with another episode soon. Might be another midweek show to allow Zach to get back from his secret holiday as to where he is. As always, check out our stuff, aftn.ca. Give us a follow on Twitter, X, AFTN Canada, also YouTube, AFTN Canada in there. Let's hope the Whitecaps can get something going on the road, start this big impressive run-in that we've had for the last couple of seasons. We'll be back with another show soon. Until then, thanks for listening, take care, and Mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.